Hey everybody, Paul Mack here with another question from a viewer. This one is from Clarence Riffle 320. He asked this: please do a video on what tools you would need on the homestead using the old tools and gear. Old tools and gear. Not the newfangled stuff like an electric leaf blower. No. The good stuff. Well, this will be a fun list. You know, I love old tools, but it can be a very subjective list when you're talking about the most important tools to have on the homestead. For instance, the tools that I have here may not be the tools that you necessarily need. I've got rocks. You may not have rocks, so I might need things like a pick to be able to dig a hole. So again, it's a subjective list. But here we go. We're going to say the top 20 tools, old-fashioned tools and gear that one might consider using on the small farm or homestead. Starting with number 20. The tamp bar, T-A-M-P. Really, it's just a big iron stick. But it is very useful when you're digging a post hole, especially if you got rocks around here. You run into that rock invariably at the bottom of the hole, and you can pound on it with this and praw on it and loosen it up and eventually get it out there. And then when you're setting the post, you can turn it around, pointy end up, and put a shovel full of dirt in, tamp it down really good, another shovel full of dirt, tamp it down, and keep on going. This is what you need to set a good firm post. Number 19, buckets. All kinds of buckets, all sizes of buckets. Even buckets with a hole in them can still be useful. So buckets. And then number 18. Rakes. All kinds of rakes. Iron rakes. Let's see, we call it yard rakes, yard brooms, and then the 4-ton rake, which is good for stirring up fires or just whatever. And also the big bull rake, which is very useful when making hay. And then the garden hoe. So how do you get the weeds out from between each plant in a row? The hoe. This is a hoe. And this one. And this one here. These two. They're good too. Here's another good one. And also these. Number 16. The froe. F-R-O-E. Which is basically a long piece of metal sharpened on one end. Not too sharp, but just sharp enough that you can split wood, bolts of wood. You can split it for kindling or making wood shingles or wood shakes, as they're called, from splitting the bolts by hitting this with a mallet. Never hit it with a hammer or anything metal, but hit it with a wooden mallet, the froe. Number 15, the draw knife. Useful for shaping all kinds of wood, especially if you've got a shaving horse. If you're making handles for other tools, basically it's a big knife that you draw toward yourself to whittle with. And then the push plow, one of my favorite tools for the farm. You can use this for cultivating your garden, for side dressing, fertilizing, opening up a trench, cultivating close to the crop, opening a seed bed. I love these things. Big wheel, short wheel, double wheel, push plows. You push them. Number 13, the brace and bit or bits. Useful for drilling holes. Also, along with that, the auger or T-auger, useful for drilling bigger holes. These both count as number 13, drilling holes. Number 12, wedges, iron wedges, and gluts, which are wooden wedges. These are made out of dogwood, very useful for splitting logs in half or quartering or whatever. Barn lanterns, number 11, very useful for seeing in the dark if you don't have a flashlight. Just add coal oil, also known as kerosene. The buck saw. Very, very handy for sawing firewood if you need to, or just plain old carpentry. If you don't have a handsaw, it's good for sawing dimensional lumber. It's even good for butchering. Number 9, all kinds of shovels. A round shovel, a square shovel, long handle shovel, short handle shovel, the sharpshooter for digging trenches, and the big scoop shovel, preferably one with a handle would be better. Number 8, the cottonseed fork. Even though we don't necessarily grow cotton on our small farms anymore, it's still useful for handling manure, compost, leaves in the garden, all kinds of things. The cottonseed fork. Number 7, the wash pot. I'm not picking that up. Useful for all kinds of things, from washing clothes to cooking down a batch of sorghum molasses to soap making, even scalding a chicken. Number 6, the block and tackle. Useful for lifting all kinds of things, especially heavy things, things that are heavier than you are. The block and tackle. Number 5, post hole diggers. What would we do without them? Number 4, all kinds of hatchets and axes. The hatchet, the felling axe, the broad axe. The mattock for digging holes or turning over garden dirt by hand, either with a pointy end for digging up rocks or a chiseled end for cutting into roots. Number 2, the scythe for cutting brush, cutting weeds, or mowing hay if you need to. And finally, the crosscut saw, the 2-man or the 1-man. Great for cutting firewood, trees, or whatever you need cut. And don't forget the tools to sharpen and set your crosscut saw with. Now again, this list of my top 20 tools may differ from your list of top 20 tools only because your skills or resources might be different than mine. But maybe my list can help you think about your list. And speaking of tools, I hope you'll take a look at my playlist, My Favorite Farm Tools with Paul Mack, where each episode we take a different tool and explain it in a little more depth than we did today. Now, if you have another tool that you think is important for your list that I didn't mention on mine, please leave it in the comment section below. We all want to read about it. I'm Paul Mack. Until next time, I'll talk at you later. You know, I always thought it'd be fun to carry one of these with me in my canoe and use it to blow around the river on. Gonna need a long extension cord though.